in terms of how the virtual ward works, is that there are cohorts of patients who don't necessarily need to be in an inpatient bed, but there is something physically about their condition where they still need some ongoing monitoring treatment, but that monitoring and treatment doesn't necessarily need to happen in an inpatient bed. So they can then be discharged to their place of residence. And I think I use the term place of residence because it doesn't just have to be a patient's home. It could be a care home, a nursing home. And then there's different levels of care that could be provided. It could be some investigations, so like the sort of intravenous antimicrobials. It could be that they're awaiting some sort of diagnostics, or it could be something then about virtual monitoring, so actually having some kit to do some monitoring from home. And then what we're just working through is what would that then look like in terms of the interface with various clinical staff, and within that, how do we establish a virtual ward on our electronic patient record, and then working through what happens if there's an exacerbation, what happens if there was an emergency, how do we then deal with that. So I think it's, I was having conversations with colleagues, and there's lots of things that we can do to improve capacity, but generally things like this, so big structural changes, are the ones that make the significant difference of releasing capacity. So we see this as a major service development to enable us to get through next winter. We don't yet know whether it's going to achieve the financial savings that are being proposed nationally. We don't know whether the sort of the requirements of the numbers of patients going through the virtual ward are going to be achievable. But what we're very mindful of is we don't want this to be a tick box exercise. We want to make sure that this is about where we have got patients in our beds, how can we appropriately and safely transfer them and admit them into a virtual ward, so we then have available capacity to be able to then treat other patients. And we're focusing on those inpatients at the moment, but we also then recognise that there are patients who are within our emergency department who could have an admission prevented by then being admitted into the virtual ward. But how you then sort of show that that was a prevented admission is slightly more difficult. So that's pretty much what the virtual ward is, and the approach. And it is such a key development for us and for others.